My boyfriend's sex drive is much lower than mine and I'm getting tired of getting rejected. I feel frustrated. I don't want this to become an issue. Please help me. Before I begin, I would like to say, I will always respect boundaries, and I will always follow the no is no rule. Sex is not just about one person, but both people. It's perfectly within everyone's right to say yes or no. I'm a female with a high sex drive, and my boyfriend is a male with a low one. It makes me feel gross inside when he turns me down a lot. I don't even know why. Is it just a little bit of disappointment? Is it because it's rejection? Does he not want me anymore? Why do I feel like this? I try not to let him know I feel this way so he doesn't feel bad about saying no, because I don't want him to ever say yes if he doesn't want to, but it's very difficult not to give anything away. I would never want him to force himself to do anything he doesn't want to. That would be horrible. But, it's like a creepy crawly feeling when I get rejected. I don't know why I can't just relax. Why do I feel this way so much more often than he does? Can't I just be normal? Is there any way to fix this? I'm tired of getting constantly turned down. Should I just stop asking? He almost never has to ask or make the first move. I usually am the one doing the initiating. It makes me feel like I'm too needy. I need help. I'm getting frustrated here. Update: thanks everyone for your input. I haven't gotten the chance to respond to everyone's comments individually, but I think a whole bunch of them were very helpful. I will definitely bring this up to him and possibly show him this Reddit post when I can. I really appreciate all your help. Talk to him. I can say from personal experience with a surprisingly similar situation, that what you need from him is reassurance that his rejection isn't personal and that he's just rejecting the act of sex, not you. Furthermore, he needs to know how you feel about sex because it involves both of you. When you don't tell him about an insecurity or fear you have surrounding something so intimate and shared as sex, you're doing a disservice to him because your feelings about this will impact your relationship, not an if, but a when, and you're not even giving him a chance to work with you to solve this issue. These conversations can be awkward, tough, and hard to start. Believe me, I know. But if you don't lay out everything that's been going on in your head on the table in front of the person to whom it is the most relevant, it will only get worse. I used to wait weeks before bringing up sex-related issues after first trying to solve them on my own, and if I'm being quite honest, it just ended up culminating in anxiety that we are both working through now. You're in a partnership. Sex is a realm in which communication and unity with your partner are your absolute strongest tools. If you want to have a pleasurable and fulfilling sex life, your partner has to know how you feel about this. I promise it will be worth how hard it is to start that conversation. Hi, low libido man here with a wife with high libido. My wife has had the same issue, and we've had long agonizing, for both of us, and seeing her in pain makes my skin curdle, conversations about it. We both understand each other's individual needs and act accordingly now that we both know how the other feels. It's important for you two to communicate your differences with each other. Don't keep it a secret and don't let it longer because the fights about it later will be way worse. For me, though I absolutely adore my wife, I'm just not very sexual anymore. I often prefer to submit to one of my various hobbies/passions or just relaxation than to get sexy time going. However, knowing my wife, I also make the effort to ensure that she's satisfied even if I'm not necessarily in the mood because I understand that our physical needs are different. We most likely won't ever have the sex life of two individuals with high drives, but we're happy with our relationship, more so than most of our friends, apparently, and with the compromises we make for ourselves and each other. Take a step back and have an honest and calm conversation with him. Help him identify the issue and work together to resolve it. I feel the same way. I try to take care of my libido with toys and get pretty experimental. I have a few kinks and I have no problem getting myself off. I usually come more from masturbation than sex. TBH, I feel more empowered and it's nice. But it's not always the same. Sometimes I really just wanna be touched by the one I love and feel connected and intertwine, and when he rejects me in those moments my heart falls down to my stomach and the thought of my vibrator disgusts me. It makes me feel guilty, angry, frustrated, and sad all at once. Feel unloved and undesirable sometimes for weeks. I don't really know how to handle it either. Maybe if he has kinks you can use those to get him in the mood, doesn't really work for me. Some men have low sex drives, and some women have high sex drives. But society tells us men should always want sex and women should only rarely want sex. This narrative programs us that if a guy says no, something is wrong with her because he should always want sex. There is nothing wrong with you to have a high sex drive. You can always try and build confidence in your relationship and try things like if he doesn't want sex, invite him to get you off with other means or toys, to still have a sexual connection even if he doesn't want sex. Or you can satisfy yourself when he isn't interested. But this type of thing may not change, and so if you don't find a healthy way of processing your different needs together, it may end up being a good reason to end the relationship. I personally have physical touch as a love language, so I also learned that sometimes my arousal is just a desire to connect emotionally. In these times, getting turned down feels like a big deal, but realizing I want connection more than sex has helped me reach out for hugs, cuddles, getting my back stroked, etc. Good luck. You may be sexually incompatible but also consider some other factors. Does he take any medication, especially antidepressants? My partner's sex drive wasn't super affected, but he did have other sex-related issues because of it when he was on certain medications. Deleted. My 32F husband, 34M, spit on me today. Is this forgivable? I don't know what to do. We got in a really weird fight this morning. I just need to describe what happened and see what people think. A little background info. My husband is really irritable in the mornings when he wakes up. He's just not a morning person. Whatever. Well, today was his day off from work, so I was expecting him to sleep in. I was up early with our baby around 7 AM, changing her diaper, and I noticed he was awake. Surprisingly, we sometimes sleep in separate rooms because of the baby. She's little, so she sleeps in our bedroom still and wakes up a few times during the night. So if he wants to sleep in the next day, he'll sleep in a separate room so he doesn't get woken up. Anyway, he seemed to be in a good mood. So I went to his room and we started chatting. We sang some songs with the baby, everything was good and happy. Then I went and made some coffee and played with the baby for a bit, getting ready to start my workday. Here's where the fight starts. I went back to his room to ask him if he could pick up a few things at the grocery store later today, since he was planning on running some errands. As I'm talking with him, I farted. I didn't even think twice about it, it just came out. Well, he just suddenly became irate, furious. It really set him off. I apologized. I realize it was rude. It just happened without thinking. But he just kept screaming and repeating himself over and over and saying how disgusting I am. He insisted I leave his room so he could go back to sleep. This is where I messed up. I just cannot stand it when someone is mad at me. I was so upset and felt like I just couldn't go on with my day with us ending our interaction like that. I started begging him to not be mad at me and crying and pleading with him to let me into his room. He was furious and just kept screaming for me to leave him alone. This went on for a few minutes, then he left his room and huffed and puffed up the stairs to go to the main bedroom. I was standing on the stairs crying, asking him why he was being so mean. Why couldn't he just forgive me? And that's when it happened. He leaned over the stair railing and spit on me. This has never happened before. I was so upset. I got all crazy and said I was going to call the police on him because spitting on me is basically assault. I shouldn't have done that, because I was never really going to call the police. I just wanted him to get into his head that it's never okay to spit on someone. Anyway, we finally just left each other alone because our nanny was about to get here, and I needed to start my workday. Unfortunately I'm obviously having a hard time concentrating, and so I came on Reddit for advice. I don't know what to do. He has this wild temper where things just set him off. And I have this problem where I can't stand someone being mad at me. I admit I was rude and annoying, but I don't deserve to be spit on. But like, where do I go from here? What advice would you give your daughter if she came to you and told you this story? Wait, an accidental fart in your own home is inexcusable and disgusting, but him purposely spitting on you is okay? Please leave this environment. You and your child deserve better. If my girl farts, we'd laugh it off. This guy is fucking crazy. He has this wild temper where things just set him off. And I have this problem where I can't stand someone being mad at me. Well, that's a bad combination. Can you elaborate on his wild temper? What kinds of things does he do to lash out? Has he ever sought out professional help for this temper? If he's not willing to work to improve his unacceptable behavior, or if it doesn't improve even if he does try, then you'd be better off ending the relationship. It's such a bad combination. By wild temper I mean he goes from 0 to 100 in an instant. 1 minute we're happy and having a nice time, then something sets him off and he's screaming. If he's in a bad mood and he gets angry, he will sometimes just get so nasty with the things he says, really mean stuff. Like marrying me was a mistake, our relationship is nothing. Then later when he's in a better mood he says he didn't mean that stuff. There's a difference between a fight and him getting mad over nothing at all. He sleeps in a separate room because he can't be bothered to be woken up by his child. He spit on you over nothing at all. That behavior is absolutely unacceptable, and he's absolutely a jerk. He spit on you because you're human, all humans have to toot. Frankly, changing his mood that quickly is an indication of a deeper problem within his mind. Him spitting on you isn't the problem here. It's that he does not respect you or care for you as much as he should, and that is not forgivable. My dad, 39M, and my aunt, 45F, have been having an affair for 4+ years. They have no idea I, 20F, know about it, but I caught them together last night. Long time lurker, first time poster. Sorry in advance for length, I have a lot to get off my chest. A little background info cause our family situation is pretty weird. My mom went to college a few hours away from her hometown in 1999 and met my dad. My parents were together very briefly, like a month, and my mom got pregnant with me. She moved back to her hometown after getting pregnant, and my dad followed so he could be involved in my life. My mom died the day after I was born due to childbirth complications, but my dad stayed in her hometown to raise me. He's not close to his family at all, so my mom's family has pretty much become his adoptive family. My maternal grandparents practically see him as a son at this point, and vice versa, and my mom's two sisters see him as a brother, or so they say. Now a little background on my mom's oldest sister. She's been married since before she met my dad in 1999, but she's despised her husband for as long as I can remember. No one in the family likes him either for reasons I won't get into. She always says she'll leave him, but they've been married for 22 years and she still hasn't. She has no children. She and I aren't super close, but we're also not estranged or anything. Background info on my dad: he had a couple long-term girlfriends when I was much younger, but he hasn't had one in at least 10 years. Claims it's because he likes being single and having fun. Everyone sort of just views him as a womanizer who doesn't want to settle down. He'll occasionally tell me he has a date, but I've never seen any proof of this. I'm extremely close to him, but I don't ask him about his love life cause that would be weird. Outwardly, my aunt and my dad aren't super close. They see each other when we all get together as a family, which is often, but they've never openly hung out one-on-one or anything like that. When we're all together, they just act like siblings. However, I'm a very intuitive and inquisitive person, and when I was about 13 I started getting suspicious of them. The weirdest thing was there was never any proof or evidence that something was going on between them. It was just a gut feeling I had, something in the way they looked at each other and spoke of each other. I started to theorize about the technicalities, wondering how and when they'd be meeting up if they were. her. I wondered if they were secretly meeting up when I was at school or at my grandparents'. When I was younger I used to spend the night at their house at least 4 times a month just because I wanted to, and sometimes my dad would ask them to keep me because he had to work late. But, like I said, there was never any proof or evidence, so my theories were no more than occasional passing thoughts. Fast forward to when I was 16. My dad owns a store, and when I first got my license, curiosity took over me and I started driving by his store on the nights he was working late to see if he was actually there. He always was, but one time my aunt's car was there, too. My dad has a pull-out couch in his office. He doesn't know that I know this. The only reason I do is because I looked at it really hard one day and figured it out. It's one of those couches that looks completely normal but turns into a bed. Seeing her there confirmed my suspicions. I decided to leave it at that and stop prying because I already felt weird and nosy enough. The whole situation really haunted me for a while, and it honestly still does. I sobbed all the way home and all night long after confirming my suspicions. I always viewed my dad as someone with amazing morals, and the thought of him having a long-term affair with a married woman, not just any married woman but my own aunt, really messed with my head. And on top of that, I couldn't tell anyone about it. It's confirmed this has been going on for at least 4 years, but I suspect it's been way longer than that. Like I mentioned earlier, my dad hasn't had a girlfriend in over 10 years. I suspect his relationship with my aunt is the reason. There was also an instance in 2018 where my aunt and my dad both coincidentally went out of town and came back at the exact same time. My aunt claimed to be in New York visiting a friend and my dad claimed to be in Nebraska for a business convention, but I think they may have actually taken a trip together. I've been walking on eggshells for the past 4 years, and living in constant fear that I'll be caught in an awkward situation and or accidentally see something I'm not supposed to, something much worse than just a car at his office. And then, my fears finally came true a few hours ago. I'm doing college from home right now, living with my dad. Tonight we had a miscommunication. He thought I was spending the night at my boyfriend's, but I was really planning to come home. I got home at about midnight, and figured it was safe because my aunt's car wasn't there or anything. I also was under the impression that my dad knew I was coming home, so he wouldn't have her over. But when I walked in, my aunt and my dad were just sitting on the couch watching a movie, all cuddled up. I went in through the game room door, which is the room they were in, so I walked right in on them. Thank God they were only watching a movie, but it was still pretty traumatizing considering they have no idea I've known about their relationship for years now. We all just kind of froze for a second, then my dad said, "I didn't know you were coming home," and I said, "I told you I was." Then in a weird freaked out state, I ran back to my car and went back to my boyfriend's. I'm still at my boyfriend's. He knows everything BTW. He's the only one who does, and I haven't heard from my dad since. It's 3 AM and I've been waiting for a text or a call, but I haven't gotten one, which I think is super weird considering we're close and usually have great communication. I haven't reached out to him either because I don't know what to say. Obviously we're inevitably going to have to address this, probably tomorrow, and I'm so freaked out I can't sleep. Do I wait for him to reach out to me first, or do I text him if he hasn't texted me by morning? Do I tell him I've known the whole time? If he says they were just hanging out, or it was a one-time thing, which I feel like he might, do I pretend to believe him? Too long didn't read. My dad and my maternal aunt, who's married, have been having an affair for at least 4 years. They have no idea I've known the whole time, but I came home and caught them together last night, just watching TV all cuddled up, not doing anything gross. I quickly ran back outside and left, and I haven't spoken to my dad since. We're going to have to address this tomorrow and I don't know how to.